So I'm super excited to be here with Charlene. So we met actually through another platform, TikTok. And she actually has the greatest advice. I want you to say a little bit about what you do, Charlene, quickly, and then we'll go back over it. But I know what your posts about, which they're amazing. You're helping people reclaim their power within, and your specialization is with narcissistic toxic abuse. And I know a lot of people throw around that word, so we're not even going to go there, but you guys definitely check out our page both on Instagram and TikTok, which is just amazing. So but tonight what we're here to talk about is, why do people sabotage their romantic relationship?
That is such a good topic of conversation, and thank you for having me. Like, I'm so excited that we met. Can we just take a moment, like Latinas Unite?
Yes.
Girl power.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I thought you were originally from Miami when we had our first conversation.
No, I wish.
Yeah, you were like, I'm in Canada, and I was like, oh wow, okay, well this is cool. Well, at least we're on the same time zone, so that's
and you know what, Miami, I've been to Miami before, and definitely a place I'd love to visit again. So maybe we can plan something.
Absolutely.
You know, something fun.
Oh my gosh, you are welcome here. I live on the beach. You're welcome, girl.
Girl, I might not leave, okay? Charlie, the cat, the dog, and I may just come with our bags and be like, we're moving in, Karen. We're moving in.
Let's go. You know what? We will heal and solve so many people.
Yes, exactly. So
yes. Steven says, you two look incredible and so sophisticated, literally two queens. Thank you so much, Steven. That's very kind of you. Let's get into it.
I guess, do you want me to kind of like break down a little bit more about what I do, and then we can dive into the topic? Does that work?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah,
so for everyone who's joining me that's part of Karen's community, hello, hi, I am Charlene. In 2017, I decided to completely do an upheaval of my life and really just surrender to who I was and embrace who I was, rather than feeling like I needed to fit into all these societal constructs. And through that, it meant that I became a single mom. And also through that, it meant that I left a very cushy six-figure job to become self-employed and to run my own business. And one of the biggest things I noticed through my journey of entrepreneurship, through my journey of becoming a single mom, through everything that I was going through, learning how to be on your own, right? The separation, the failed engagement, that, like, all the things, right? Which I'm sure you can relate to a degree, and lots of other people that are watching this can as well, right? You know, the failures according to what society puts out there, right? If you leave your wife or husband, your marriage, all this stuff, your career, like, what are you doing leaving a cushy six-figure job? Like, what are you doing all these things? I realized that there were a lot of people out there who really found themselves in these moments of darkness or these moments of difficulties and challenges in their life because they didn't have the right spiritual support systems or the right support systems in place. And I was naturally a very spiritual person, but never somebody that practiced spirituality externally. It was something that I was ashamed of and honestly quite embarrassed about, right? Because you grow up Latina, you have to follow the Catholic Church. Like, you can't do tarot and crystals. That's like demonios and the devil.
That's brujeria.
Brujeria. What are you doing? You can't say you're a bruja, right? And I'm like, meanwhile, we all are, literally, because that's in our genes, but okay. And so my journey started with helping women who were going through divorce and separation, and then more and more women started coming to me, and then men started coming to me going like, I want to fix my relationship, I want to fix my life, like, I'm unhappy in my career and my job, and you know, I don't like how much money I'm making, and all these things. So really what it turned into was me supporting women predominantly, and some men as well, through their catalyst moments. And so catalyst moments are anything that creates, I guess, a ripple in your life, right? Whether it's loss of love, any major transformational moment in your life. And so I support people, I walk them through the journey of that difficult moment that they're in, and bridge the gap. I hate that term, but I just used it. Bridge the gap so that they can get to the other side, so they can finally live that life of fulfillment, that life of happiness, that life of purpose that we all aspire to have, right? Like where you hear these people go, I love my life. I love how much money I make. I love my partner. I love my home. I love everything that I do. It doesn't mean that life is perfect.
Yes.
But you find the ways to live in happiness and joy and fulfillment and joyful expectation through the difficulties.
Absolutely.
And that's what I talk about on social media, right? I talk about what the life of one looks like when they decide to transform their lives from unfulfillment, from stuckness. I'm sure, you know, in your environment, in your work, and people that you know, and if you're watching this, you know many people who turn around and are like, I hate my job. I feel so stuck. I feel so unhappy. You know, I hate my husband. My husband and I fight all the time, or my wife and I, we don't have sex, and all this and all that. And yet these people stay.
Yeah, which is sad. They settle and they stay instead of doing the inner work. And I do believe relationships can, if both parties put their respective parts in, relationships can be repaired, but sometimes one of them doesn't want to, so it just doesn't happen, or you know, neither one of them want to, and that's okay, but you still have to do the work afterwards, because if not, what we're doing is we're washing, rinsing, repeating.
Exactly. And you're falling into these patterns of self-sabotage.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So fall into these patterns of self-sabotage. So I appreciate, I think somebody in the comments was like, talk about this. Well, that's what we're leading into, right?
We're going into
where we begin, right? Everything has its seed that plants, and then it grows and it blooms. And when we choose to live unfulfilled lives, then we lead ourselves through self-sabotage in our life.
Absolutely.
And today we're talking about self-sabotaging in relationships, right?
Yeah.
And what that looks like. If you know, I always say this when I work with my clients who are like, I can't find a husband or a wife, or I know I need to break up with them, but I can't, right? I get that a lot, right? Like, I know that I don't want to be with this person anymore, but like, I can't break up with them. My kid, my this, my that, my this, right? Like all the what ifs and the stories and the excuses. And I always say this to them. I say, the main reason why we self-sabotage is because we believe that we are not worthy of receiving that which is on the other side of accomplishing the thing that we sabotage or procrastinate about.
Absolutely.
So for example, what you're saying, like the staying in an unhappy relationship, we'll stay in an unhappy relationship because we don't believe that we're worthy of a happy relationship.
And people don't realize that the other side is so much better. Yes, I'm not going to say that automatically everything lifts up and the birds start singing and, you know, the sun comes out. But if you do that inner work, my gosh, the other side is just incredible, you know? Yes. So hello, San Antonio. So Charlene, let's get into it, because I think this is what they want. Is what we were leading into is, you know, what makes people want to sabotage romantic relationships? And we know that there can be various reasons why people do that, which is what we said. But, and there's a few common factors that can contribute to this behavior. So the first one that I found to be true is, number one, fear of intimacy, which is huge.
Absolutely. There's actually 5 fundamental fears, according to some psychologists and people that talk about, right? Fear of loss of love. Right? Losing the person that you fall in love with, that they don't want you anymore, that they don't, you know, they don't want to be with you. Fear of criticism. How many of us like being told that we're not good enough? Right? That we didn't perform well enough, that we need to lose weight or gain weight or whatever it is. Then there's fear of death. Literally losing that person. Fear of poverty and fear of ill health. And so that fear of intimacy falls into the category of fear of loss of love. Right? To be intimate means that we have to be vulnerable.
Exactly. They fear the getting close. They fear the getting vulnerable in a romantic relationship. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. This is what happens.
Is it a bless you?
Thank you. And you know, and the fear can stem from past experiences, such as heartbreak, such as trauma. And unconsciously, they sabotage their relationship, like to protect themselves, like an inner shield. A shield goes up from potential pain. And I think that's something someone asked here, and we'll get into that. Let me see his name. I don't know his name, but it's Jalen said, I don't understand how to do the inner work. We'll get back to it at the end. We'll kind of talk about that. But, you know, definitely when people have that fear of intimacy and they use their past experiences to put that shield up. I mean, my first thing that I say to clients, and I've even said this in my personal romantic relationships, is do not make me or do not make that person pay the plates that someone else broke. And that's where the inner work comes in, that you have to be, you know, either working on yourself, you know, because we're never 100% healed, because we're always working towards something else. We may heal something, then we move on to something else. But we definitely, that fear of intimacy is huge in a relationship.
Yeah, you know, this whole journey of healing is not a reaching a destination. No. It's a journey. And so we're always, when we decide to practice consciousness and awareness in our day-to-day life, we're always going to be paying attention or practicing that consciousness and that awareness. What am I doing? How am I behaving? How am I reacting or responding? And what triggers me? Right? How many of us actually know what our triggers are and how we react to our triggers? Because when we can acknowledge a trigger, it doesn't mean that we don't have a reaction or emotion or feeling. It means that we just respond from a different place.
Yes.
Because we can take that moment to step back. And to go back to what you were saying, this whole fear of intimacy, right? I call it a self-preservation mechanism. So at one point, that self-preservation mechanism worked. It's what protected you from healing your heart, from being able to honor the sorrow, the grief of the heartache, of the heartbreak, of the loss, and all whatever happens when you break up in a relationship. Yeah. But what ends up happening afterwards is, as a method of self-preservation to avoid that vulnerability, because vulnerability is all about expressing your emotions without knowing how those emotions or those feelings are going to be received. So regardless of whether or not there's receptivity, you are expressing yourself emotionally. So it's like me saying to you, Karen, I'm in love with you. Yeah. That is being completely vulnerable. And you turning around and going, girl, I don't like women. I don't like men. And I would be like, you know, that's a place of vulnerability. Yeah. Knowing that that could not be reciprocated, but that's okay, because at least I put myself out there. Exactly.
And that's the important part, where you do get to that healing part, where you're going to have that trigger. You're going to be like, I'm not sure if I can express this. And once you express it, you have to be able to deal with what the response is going to be. And then that's where you know you've done the healing. Yeah. And it's so important. Yes, yes. So let's move on to the next one that I have on my list, and we'll get some too on your list. Insecurity and low self-esteem. They struggle with feelings of unworthiness and inadequacy in a relationship. So they engage in self-sabotaging behaviors to confirm the negative beliefs that they are thinking of themselves is true of what their partner is thinking. Absolutely. And that, I've seen it firsthand happen. So, yeah. Absolutely. That's basically when people turn around and put themselves in situations so that they can prove themselves right. Yes. And it's so sad, because all you're doing is, you're not hurting the partner you're with, you're not hurting the person that you're with, you're hurting yourself.
Yeah, and
they don't realize that.
You're feeding that narrative, right? Yes. So internally I call them external narratives, because a lot of the faulty belief systems or the thoughts that we have, or the behavioral patterns that we have, actually originate from some sort of trauma that we experienced growing up.
Yes.
Whether mom, dad, whatever, somewhere along your journey of like infancy and then your teenage and your younger years, you've developed those forms of traumas. And so then you start believing it, you start adapting. So I think somebody just said there, it's not the fear of intimacy, it's the fear of losing the intimacy once you have it. Yeah. So that in itself is a trauma that this person has, right? They have a fear of losing the intimacy once they have it, because they don't have the tools within their toolbox. They haven't been given this opportunity to explore this healing, to really dive in, to understand, well, where does that fear really originate from? Exactly. What was the catalyst moment that happened in my life? And so what they'll do, you know, I'm not saying this particular person who gave the example is going to do it, but a generalization would be, then they start dating people who are just going to fulfill their faulty narrative. So they might date people who are emotionally unavailable, people with a avoidant attachment style, maybe people who, you know, are abusive or toxic or have these narcissistic patterns, because then they can turn around and go, see, I put myself out there and I dated somebody who wasn't emotionally available for me, because I don't deserve that loss of that intimacy, because I'm going to lose it. And there we go. Now I fed my narrative, and I can go back to the comfort and the safety of my own faulty perception versus doing any of the work.
Yes, and that's where we're talking about the wash, rinse, repeat cycle. Wash, and they just go through continuous relationships. So it's really sad. So I have one more before we go on your list. I have one more, communication problems. They sabotage your relationships, and this is huge. Inadequate communication skills, or the inability to express emotions effectively, which most always leads to misunderstanding, unresolved conflicts. Once the communication breaks down, it leads to either one, and usually both parties in a relationship, it leads to frustration, resentment, and ultimately that self-sabotages the relationship.
Yeah. So communication was something that I really took a lot of time to work on after I went through my catalyst moment, my transformation moment in my life.
Yeah.
And I call it my third spiritual awakening for anybody here who understands spirituality. If you don't, that's okay. It was a transformational moment in my life.
Yes.
And I learned that I had either passive or passive aggressive communication style.
Yes.
Now there are 4 types of communication styles. There's passive. Passive is, instead of telling you how I'm feeling, it doesn't exist. I just go away. Then there's passive aggressive, where you make that backhanded comment, right? Like, oh, there you are, leaving the dishes again for me to clean up. Like, so passive aggressive, right? Yeah. Wish you could do the dishes, but clearly you're too busy, right? Then there's aggressive. Aggressive falls under the spectrum of an abusive, toxic, or narcissistic partner. And the healthiest form of communication is assertive communication.
Yes.
However, if you go on social media, and you work in media, I graduated from school media, I'm on social media, we know full well that there is a lot of difficulty in people expressing themselves assertively.
Oh,
there's a fear of expressing yourself assertively, right? Yeah. So if you were to say something mean to me, I could turn around and either be passive, not say anything, be aggressive, fight you back, or I could be passive aggressive, or I could turn around and say, hey, listen, Karen, I felt very disrespected and very devalued when I hear people say that they don't like the way I talk.
Yeah. And people are afraid to they're afraid to take the time to express exactly, effectively what they're feeling, for the fear of what the reaction is going to be from the other person. Oh my gosh, if I say this, am I going to lose this relationship? Am I going to start a fight? And I think what I always give my advice is, a lot of it has to do in the delivery of how you do it, the tone, the delivery, at what, how you say it to them. That's super important, which is also falls into, like we said, aggressive. If you're aggressive, then it's not going to work. If it's a backhanded comment, it's not going to work. If you're clear, and to the point, and let them know, as hard as that pill is to swallow, or that Band-Aid is, I mean, it is so much better when you're on the other side of that. And honestly, if you lose the person, guys, it's not the person for you, because the person for you is going to say, okay, I'm sorry that you felt that way, and understand where you're coming from. And a lot, I mean, I know we're because everything kind of meshes together, but a lot today is people don't want to work on these relationships. It's like, next, I don't care. And we're not talking about abusive. We're not talking about toxic. We're not talking about narcissistic. We're talking about, a nice, healthy relationship where there's always going to be conflicts. No matter what, when I had someone tell me, oh, because my ex, we never ever fought. I'm like, that's unrealistic. Right. Even if it's a disagreement, it doesn't mean it's a full out fight. But if you never fight, then both of you are just keeping everything inside. Not fight necessarily, but disagreement, or having discussions, because it doesn't have to be a fight, but discussions. Then you're
conversations, communicating, anything.
Yes, you're actually keeping everything inside of you. And that is definitely not healthy. And it goes back to where resentment is going to be built up. Yeah. If not by one, but then both.
Exactly. I call that the shit we shove under the rug.
Yes.
Right? If you were to grab a bunch of shit, you shove it under the rug. We're like,
yes. Oh my God.
It's going to stink in your relationship. It's going to stink in your life. It's going to fester inside of you.
And we're all guilty. I mean, at some point, until we consciously realize that. So it's like, we're not bashing anyone. If that's what you've done in the past, or you're doing, just now consciously, you need to open up your eyes and realize that is what you're doing that's not healthy. You have to be able to confront that in a nice, healthy, respectful manner with your partner.
Yeah, and that really boils down to self-worth, self-value, and self-love, right?
Yes.
I always say when people, you know, when we start talking about these conversations, I'm like, I was there. I was there once.
Yeah.
I was avoidant.
Yeah.
Right? I still find myself in moments being a little bit avoidant, right? Because I'm like, oh, I'd rather just pretend that it doesn't exist, and then I don't have to deal with
rock the boat. I don't want
it.
to start the fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'm so non-confrontational as a person, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the reality is these are the parts of ourselves that instead of us feeling shame or guilt about, we should feel love and compassion, forgiveness and grace about. When I talk about when I work with my students and in my courses that I offer and the things that I do, you know, on YouTube or whatever, I always talk about the fact that there is the highest self. The highest self is connected to source consciousness. If you're religious, it's connected to God, right? Buddha, whoever you want to consider the higher power, right?
Yes,
that is you on an energetic level, and you have the ability to connect directly, tether directly to source consciousness. And when you operate from source consciousness, you operate from your highest expression of yourself, you're always operating from a place of love. Love of yourself and love of others. Then we have our ego and we have our shadow self. We're taught to suppress, to deny, to ignore, to feel guilt and shame and embarrassment about our ego and our shadow. But the reality is they all make us, they're all parts of us. So we have to learn how to integrate, how to work together with these parts of us that, you know, we're taught to feel embarrassed about, but really we should just be like, that's just a part of me that I'm working on, because we're all imperfectly perfect.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of us, like right when you said, you know, be quiet, don't say anything, don't express your feelings. And a lot of us, I think he said his name was Alan, said, you know, what is inner healing? A lot of it stems, guys, where you have to start is from childhood. And what do they tell you when you're little? Children are to be heard, children are to be seen, not heard.
Yeah.
Seen, not heard. So what does that tell you?
Children are this.
It tells you automatically, be quiet. Children are this. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
So a lot of these things that we learn, a lot of these patterns, besides when you start, you do see examples, whether it's parents, whether it's an aunt, uncle, whether it's a teacher, you do see those examples of those things affect your life. But even that's where we need to start the inner healing is from childhood. That inner childhood, that's where it needs to start. Alan, you need to go back and say, okay, sometimes their mother wounds, sometimes their father wounds, sometimes, you know, I had to work personally through a wound a fourth grade teacher did upon me, you know, and it was like, okay, because it was something that he had said from me being Hispanic. Right. And that stuck in my head and stuck in my head. And it took so much within me to get, as an adult, to get over that, of which I am nothing of that, but because at that point, that's how he perceived Hispanic people. Right. You know? Right. So it's very difficult. So there's different things that affects you. So you almost, I'm going to say, in the experience is, even with my dating clients, even their blocks in dating, I have to literally go back to them to start. Like the first session is like, let's go back into your childhood and almost do a little psychology and go back and to start healing with that childhood and why we allow these things as adults.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you're saying that, you know, and I think it's when we start reflecting back on our lives and we start practicing that consciousness and that awareness, we actually start bringing up these memories that we often have suppressed.
Yes.
Right? That really left those scars on us. You know, you were sharing your story, and I remember in grade 9, I had a teacher tell me that I should quit choir. I wanted to be a singer. She told me, stop singing.
Wow.
To pick up an instrument instead. I will never sing in public because of that, to this day.
And you probably sing like an angel.
No, I don't think so. But see, you see how like there's that, like there's a story, right?
You know, it's the perception that someone along in our life, in our early childhood life, or our young adolescent life, did something triggered inside of us, and that led us on.
And it leaves that scar. So until we work through that, until we focus on that healing, we're always going to get stuck in that loop, or we're always going to attract the same type of partner, which then leads us back to this topic of conversation, why we self-sabotage in relationships. Right? Because we'll just repeat the same thing. We'll always attract a toxic partner. We'll always attract an avoidant partner. We're always going to attract people who don't see our worth or who don't see our value until we work through our own shit.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit of how we can start. We said a little bit about, we have to start with the inner child healing. Like, to me, with my clients, that's the first step. What is someone saying here? He's saying it is crazy how freeing you are when you heal the trauma that is deep rooted from an early age. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that right there, that comment is so on key.
It took me off my path.
Yeah, Purvis said, I figured out things through therapy that took me off my path. Absolutely. And let me tell you guys, so many people, and especially for us, at least for us being Latinas, is like, therapy, we don't talk about that. We don't do that. That's taboo.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, therapy nowadays is like breathing. And all you're doing is helping yourself and releasing things inside of you so you can continue going up the levels of who you are meant to be in life and end up with the happiness that you deserve. Because we all have different ideas of what happiness is, and we all deserve that happiness that we do believe and that we deserve.
That unlocking of that dream life, right? That dream life's going to look very different for you than it will for me, than it will for Jorge or Wendy or whoever is online right now.
Yeah.
But it's knowing that you are worthy and deserving of freeing yourself from the perceived chains, the narratives, the stories, the limiting beliefs that stop you from unlocking that dream life of yours, right? Like, you have full capability of being able to get that. And, you know, you were asking me before, like, what are some of the reasons why people sabotage in relationships or sabotage their relationships? I would say there are two big ones that I see as a continual pattern over the past few years that I've been working with clients. The first one is complacency.
Yes.
It's so comfortable to get stuck in a specific routine or a pattern, complacency, comfort. Even if that comfort is not fulfilling, or even if that comfort is not bringing you joy or happiness, but it's because it's the same thing.
Yes.
Right? You're used to it. It's there. It's what you know. It's safe. There's no risk involved. And so complacency is one of the biggest things that I see when people sabotage, right? Well, this is what I've done all along, right? All along, whenever a guy or a girl talks to me, I always cut them off, or, you know, have walls up, or treat them like crap, or push them away.
Yes.
That's what I've done, right? You know, for guys and gals alike, it's I just sleep with a bunch of random people because I don't need to get emotionally attached, right? Like, you hear that a lot. Or vice versa. Well, I've been with this person for so long, I don't know what my life is going to look like. Leaving. And which leads me to my second point, the second biggest thing that I see why people self-sabotage, and that is a fear of the unknown.
Yes. So many people say a fear of unknown. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Fear of the unknown, right? So there's this fear of surrendering to the universe and believing that you and the universe, because you are the universe experiencing yourself, can really attract everything that you desire, but there's no control in that journey. Like, you have to completely surrender to what you know and take that leap of faith. Right?
Absolutely. And sometimes you don't even know where it's coming from. You have no idea.
Watching the Metaverse Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Like, not the one that just came up, but the one with the first one's with Miles Morales. And Peter Parker says to Miles Morales, "You won't know when you're ready. You just have to take that leap of faith."
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, totally off topic, but today I was just having a moment, and I control my moments because I'm not going to let myself go down that rabbit hole. And I just said, and you and I are spiritual, so we understand these things. But I was like, I just was at a red light, and I put my hands up and I go, I'm done, God. I'm done. What do you want from me? Just give me a sign of what you want from me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the light turned green, and I look over, and I just see 444 on a sign. And I was like, thank you. Okay, God, thanks. At the next red light, I forgot what that means, but let me look it up. It made sense. And maybe some people are like, oh, that's so woohoo and woo-woo.
Whatever.
For me, it's not, because we're already in that, we've already healed so much, and we're in that spiritual realm where we've already, you know, understand what those things, and they actually do mean things, or, you know, you have to look for those little signs of when you're healing, or simple as, you know, yesterday I went for my walk, and again, I always start, you know, gratefulness, and, you know, God, show me a sign that I'm on my right path. And I saw 2 signs. And so, you know, that makes sense for me, and not looking for them. Like, so you said, just trust in you are on your right path. So when you are healing, there's those times that you break down, because we know from our own healing journey, you break down and you're like, I can't do this. This is too hard. I just want to stay where I was. Why did I leave? Why did I not just stay there and take whatever was given to me, to not rock it? And you end up, those moments that you bring up, but then you're going to have those little moments of like, okay, I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
I definitely on the right path. Yeah. So someone said here, growth and comfort cannot exist.
I love that.
Absolutely, Lewis.
Absolutely. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
So
you can't grow if you want to continuously stay in the same place, right? Like, just jumping a little bit off topic here, but last year I got this message. So on my YouTube channel, I offer tarot readings, I do spirituality, law of attraction, self-love videos. I do a plethora of different things. We're adding travel onto the channel as well this year. So there's a lot of really cool things on the channel. But last year I got, and my biggest, I guess you could say, funnel of my clients came from my tarot readings, right? And then other people will watch my other stuff. And I got this big message to stop doing tarot. And I was absolutely terrified of that. But I was like, I need to follow this journey for whatever reason I have to go through it, right? It affected it affected my self-esteem, my self-worth, my income, my confidence. There was also a lot of other things that were happening in my life, in my personal life as well. And just maybe like a month ago, I had a dream, and I dream a lot, where the universe was like, it's time to go back now to tarot. Like, you've done what you needed to do for the past year. Now you need to go back to tarot. And when I did that, I kind of sat back with like the realization, because as soon as I started doing tarot, there was an influx again of everything coming in. And I was looking and I'm like, wow, God, I'm so grateful. And I noticed a few things. One, that I needed to practice gratitude a little bit more in my life, right? For the blessings that I have. But two, that last year taught me how to speak in a different way. It taught me how to write, how to script, how to edit. It taught me all these other skills, which I know are going to serve me in this next stage in my life. You know, being featured in Meditation Magazine, doing things with you, and working like in TV and the media, and all these other aspects where I didn't have that skill set before. So for all of you that are watching this, and you know, you're wondering like, well, what does the journey of unknown look like, or this fear, right? Where I think somebody said, I don't know, like sometimes when I don't know what to do, I ask for a sign or whatever. Sometimes the universe will take you, source, God, whatever, will take you on these little detours to help you, so that you can see first eye how you sabotage yourself, your relationships, love and happiness in your life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. I love everything that we're getting here. RZ Ace said, I am like that when I don't know what to do or decide. She also said, ask for a sign. Art Christ said, we're always learning. I mean, so you guys know exactly what we're talking about. Yes, absolutely. We have gone over our time. I love this. But I do want to, let's wrap it up. I'm loving this because they're interacting and they're getting exactly. So, you know, we did speak about, I'm super excited because your journey is really expanding, and I want to thank you for being on here.
Thank you.
I mean, it's so informative. Definitely, guys, you know, if you do not follow Charlene, please do on TikTok and Instagram. And
YouTube and TikTok is where I really hang out.
Okay. And
you know, I've got a love-hate relationship with Instagram.
What are your handles where they can find you? And tell me
literally
exactly
what my name is, Charlene Lizette. If you look up Charlene Lizette over on TikTok and over on YouTube, don't look at the fake ones, look at the real accounts. I think on TikTok I'm at 145,000, and on YouTube almost 140,000. So that's where you can find me over there. And there's tons of free content to help you in your journey of not self-sabotaging anymore.
It is amazing. So guys, definitely look that up. Charlene, thank you so much. We'll definitely have to do this again on another different topic.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's do this again.
And thank you guys for joining us as well.
Yeah, thank you everyone. You have yourself a great night, Karen, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.
See you later, alligator. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye, guys.